What is your most embarrassing moment from high school? I had to have a lunch date in front of the entire school with a random girl. 2 names picked out of a hat. WTF? Did you go to high school in a Disney Channel sitcom? I don't know whose stupid idea it was. Really busted my self-confidence. They didn't think of the consequences. Still recovering 10 years later. I cried the very first time I reprimanded by a teacher. Sophomore year, grade 10 and 14 YO, my English teacher gave me detention to make an example out of me in front the whole class. After a few minutes I could hardly see or breathe with how ugly I was crying. She ended up feeling bad because it wasn't that serious and said I didn't have to go to detention anymore. I stepped outside for a minute to try and compose myself and ended up waiting 30 minutes until that period was over so I could avoid everyone. Grab my things and leave for the next class. Not high school but in middle school I told everyone I got signed by Nike. Haha. That's dope. Anyone believe you? No and nah man, not dope. It was the cringiest thing ever, still keeps me up at night. I accidentally sat in someone else's car after school, thinking it was my mom's car. I even buckled my seatbelt before looking to my right and seeing a baby, and looking to the front and seeing a horrified woman. I apologized quickly and ran out only to see that my mom's car was the one behind it. I had a really bad friend group freshman and sophomore year and I think the way I let them treat me was just humiliating. I didn't have any respect for myself. They were a group of narcissists and I basically just let them pick on me non-stop. They could have thrown their drinks at me and I'd still show up to their lunch table the next day. Which happened. I'm in a better place with much better people now BTW. I'm glad you're in a better place now. I had a pair or 2 of pants that would stick out at the zipper making it look like a boner. I didn't notice till my friend's friend who hates me said I had a boner for her. It was both funny and embarrassing. After that I was very conscious of pants zippers. Haha. In general it sucks getting random boners in class and having to stand up and present or talk. Kids be mad staring in class. I was 16. And I had recently started dating my first real girlfriend. Now, granted, I'd had other love interests before then. And some of them had even referred to themselves as my girlfriends. But it wasn't until age 16 that I actually started sleeping with my romantic partner. And let me tell you, the mind of a 16-year-old who has just been granted access to sex is a force to be reckoned with. It didn't matter where I was, what I was doing, or what the circumstances were. If I was with my girlfriend and we had 15 minutes to spare, we would find a way of getting it on. No matter what extreme steps we'd have to take. This led to a number of borderline absurd scenarios, and quite a few questionable choices. But for the most part, we escaped from our liaisons unscathed. Then, one day, we somehow got it into our heads that it would be a good idea to fool around in the women's bathroom of a park we used to frequent. Honestly, we should have seen the problem coming from a mile away. As it happened, though, we were both too preoccupied with the idea of having uncomfortable sex to think to ourselves, gee, I wonder if anyone else will want to use this single stall restroom at any point. Needless to say, someone else did. By the time my girlfriend and I had finished, a line of about 5 women had formed outside the bathroom door. Upon realizing this, I started to panic, wondering if I was going to get arrested for having been in there. There were no windows through which I could make an escape, and it wasn't as though there was anywhere that I could hide. But then, a solution occurred to me. See, at the time, I had very long hair, and with a little bit of creative clothing rearrangement, I could give myself the appearance of having breasts. True, my face wasn't especially feminine, and I was already over 6 feet tall at the time. But I figured that if I just rushed past the line of waiting women, I could be home free and no one would be any wiser. It might have worked, had it not been for the fact that one of the people in the line turned out to be our school's counselor. And she recognized me. The following Monday, I got called to the office for a little chat. TLDR. A cross-dressing 6 romp in a single-stall public bathroom. I think it was when my friend told my teacher that I spent all year wanting to duck him. Had to act out a play in front of my English class senior year. I already hate doing public speaking enough, so it certainly didn't help that the class was being rude to us. Embarrassed the heck out of me. Like I was seriously tearing up while trying to get through my lines. Ripped my shirt off after our varsity squad won an important basketball game. And threw said shirt into the opposing crowd. This was in a very conservative community close to the Amish. I had to be escorted out of the building. Which moment? I think every day was embarrassing in hindsight. Really? All 4 years? Oh yeah, it WQS rough, sadly self-inflicted. I was very unaware of social cues at that time. I have a few. Though the worst I suppose is when I squatted down to pick up something for one of my teachers and my shorts split down the middle. I showed up to a pretty important early rehearsal for choir late because I forgot. I just walked in, sat down, and didn't talk to anyone. The teacher was nice and didn't take points off my grade. During probably sophomore year, I had a severe case of baby face. At the time, I was also interested in a particular anime with a character with notoriously exaggerated features. Combining these two things together led to my solution of having my mom draw on very dark eyebrows about 3/4 inch thick on me. I stuttered in front of my whole class. That one moment between freshman orientation and graduation. Okay, so I was a pretty girl and my friend was too. We were dating best friends and we decided to have fun when on a school trip. We had a naked party in our hotel room, girls only, but we took a bunch of pictures, intending to show our boyfriends what fun we had. Before we got up the next morning, one of our roommates took the camera and proceeded to show anyone and everyone the pictures. We woke up and didn't know what happened until random people dubbed us porn stars. It was incredibly embarrassing. To this day I don't even know how many people have seen me naked because of this girl. Dropping out. What's your reason? My dad was living off of the few $1,000s of inheritance he got when my grandpa died. Around the end of junior year. It ran out and due to health laziness reasons he wasn't getting a job. He also owes my mom $23,000 in child support, so no matter what he was ducked financially. I didn't know how to drive, so I had no way to go out and get a job, so I just left and moved to Texas to my mom's so I wouldn't have to be on the same sinking ship he was on. It's been going pretty well here, and after I get my get I'm gonna pursue stand up since there's more of a scene here. Asked a girl if I could sit with her. She straight up said no. A year later we dated for a short while. Still only a freshman. But I've got to tell this story. So I'm the drummer for our school's jazz band. And our first concert was a week ago after the concert for the normal concert band. I first hit the snare and immediately hear the sound of a bongo coming from my snare drum. I panicked and couldn't find out why the snare sounded so bad. Found out afterwards that it wasn't on. Rookie mistake. Now, I can handle having a bad performance. It happens to everybody. And we had a concert 2 days after to make up for it. But I'll never be able to take back the fact that 4 other band directors from other schools all around the region were in the audience. My first impression to 4 other band directors was an idiot who didn't care enough to check his snare. Summary: always check your snare. Alright. Story time. I'm not embarrassed by it at this time. But it really troubled me for a while. Freshman year of high school. Barely started puberty at that point. Was a small boy. Still genitally small lol. I had just come back from being sick. But my throat was still dead. So I had a lot more water than normal. I was fine throughout the most of the day. Until my last class of the school day. In the last 15 minutes of class. And I really had to pee. I was blindsided by it. So even though there wasn't much time left, I asked to use the bathroom. The teacher said no. I was fine with it. Just 15 minutes and all. But realizing how much water I had since I last used the restroom was a troubling sign. After the bell rang for class, I sprinted out of the classroom just to try and get to the bathrooms. But they were locked already. Cruel sheet. I took the bus home at the time. It was a 40-minute ride. So little ol' me had to get on the bus for a 40-minute ride home with essentially a full bladder. The ride was painful. Every bump and turn causing pain in the bladder area as I do everything to prevent worst case scenario. As students get off, I feel equally worse and better. Worse because I'd still have to wait. Better as there are less witnesses. 5 minutes before my stop, it reaches worst case scenario. My bladder is giving up. There's just too much. And it all comes out. It feels so relieving. But I know there's a puddle forming under my bus seat and that there are some people who had seen it or at least noticed it. Bus comes to my stop. I get home as quick as possible. Hide the smell by spraying cologne and change my clothes. The end. Not high school but infant school. My mum forgot to pack my PE kit. I had to wear a leotard from Lost and Found. Cried my eyes out big time. Classmate pulled my shorts and boxers down in front of the entire year group, boys, girls and teachers, completely exposing pen 15. Everyone saw. I sheet my pants in 8th grade. Stomach had been brewing all day since the beginning of school. It was 5th period when I felt the building pressure in my ass, so I just up and left for the restroom. Sprinted down the hall, praying to the gods for the strength to keep the floodgates closed for a little longer. I thankfully made it to the restroom. But halfway into pulling my pants down I lost all control and let loose. Some of it hit my pants and the rest just shot into toilet. After the fact, I cleaned up and washed my pants in the restroom sink. Walked straight into the principal's office smelling like soapy sheet. Said I was sick and walked home. I was the chunky kid in middle school and I wanted to get fit. So one day in gym class I decided I was going to start running. When I was running I tripped on my poorly knotted shoelace and fell off of the treadmill. What was extra embarrassing is that I held on for a solid 20 seconds before letting go, begging for help. All my friends laugh and still bring it up to this day. Freshman. 15 years old, no friends. Only a few acquaintances, impoverished upbringing. I'm asked to participate in a rap battle during lunch. Like a fool. I agree. My turn comes. And I lay out the entire Danny Phantom theme song. No laughs, the goal. Instead, everyone is bemused because a poor weird kid thinks he's funny. I was that person who said the weirdest things at the most awkward time, so I guess all of high school was embarrassing. Especially my 9th and 10th grade years. 11th and 12th were slightly better. Things got better my JR year when I started theater classes. I'm a very sensitive, ambitious, creative person. And I always say some dumb shit. Ever since freshman year. I'm still making friends yet wherever I go, so I'm guessing it's doing well for me, haha. I never had a problem making friends. It's when all of us would be together and things would be going great and someone would say something and my response would be over everyone's head. I've always been that person in the group who was beyond my years. Researching things that no one else even thinks about. Like how things work and weird facts, and at one point I was obsessed with learning as many new words as possible. Like I was basically studying the dictionary. Period. White tights. Enough said. I got pantsed, and not just my pants. My underwear too. The guy who did it got a nice view of my ass. Who knows who saw the front? I was at the back of the class waiting for the bell to ring with people everywhere in front of me. When I was in my sagging the pants phase, the inevitable happened. I forgot my binder in class and had to go into a class that already started. I got my binder from the back of the room. Now this is where I realized I was screwed. Pants decide to fall dangerously low, so I am now waddling in the back of class. Arms full of school stuff. Get right in front of a guy's desk and guess whose pants fall to his ankles. I quickly drop my stuff on his desk and pull my pants up so fast I hit my nuts. Make eye contact with the teacher and thank God she acted like nothing happened and have everyone see that. I called my teacher a witch in front of a classroom of students. At first I was angry for getting in trouble for cheating when I didn't, but after a while I felt embarrassed about my behavior. French class. 1992 or 93. I had the biggest crush on a guy in my class. We were both standing at the front of the teacher's desk. I was wearing a skirt. And on my period. Then it happened. A drop of menstrual blood somehow bypassed my pad and panties. And fell to the floor. Right in front of my crush. I immediately put my foot on it. He either didn't notice or was too polite to say anything. But I wanted to die. Why would you do this to us? My junior year. I was eating lunch in the debate room and hanging out with some of my friends in debate, just screwing around. All of a sudden, our debate captain comes in and tells me not to say anything to Jerry. Names have been changed when he comes into the room to look for his Dr. Pepper. Now I am not a fan of Dr. Pepper, important, and I saw it earlier in the room but I forgot where it was cause I was talking to our debate coach. Anyway, Jerry comes into the room and says, "Where is my Dr. Pepper?" I tell him that I didn't know and everyone in the room told him the same thing. Including our captain. Now Jerry knows I am not a fan of Dr. Pepper and looks at me believing I stole it and looked at me and accused me of stealing it. I tell him that I did not steal it and in the process, I start to laugh cause of a joke my coach told in that instance. Jerry, now becoming more irritated at every passing second, again accuses me of stealing it but also states, "I know you moved my Dr. Pepper because you hate it and because you are smiling." In high school, I was known for having pretty bad temper and of course being accused of something I didn't do was a recipe for disaster. At that point, I raised and told him I didn't and he called me a liar, in which I snapped and yelled out, "I didn't steal your stupid Dr. Pepper." Apparently I yelled so loud that 2 other teachers came into the room and asked if everything was alright, to which everyone in the room just stares at me and I was embarrassed that I allowed myself to get carried away with my anger that just walked out and didn't talk to anyone for the rest of the day. Jerry got his Dr. Pepper back and I was forced to live with the fact my yelling made 2 teachers look at me differently. I was able to mend that but my friends in debate would bring it up on occasion, making me relive that day. Even after almost 5 years since, and I ran into someone who was there that day and brought it. To my dismay. Oh ducking God. I hate you for reminding me of this occasion. I was in a class where most classmates were kinda big digs to me, including my teacher. The last day of class I requested to read a paper I had prepared. I was given permission and then proceeded to roast every individual of the entire class one by one, oblivious to the fact that I was not getting good reactions. Halfway through the teacher tried to stop me saying, "Okay, that's enough," but I said, "Oh, hold on. I'm almost done," and he stepped back saying, "Good." Then I roasted the teacher, basically calling him a dickhead. Some of my roasts of classmates included racial slurs and calling people assholes, and I felt so funny and proud of myself. I think at the time I had been watching too much Comedy Central roasts and figured it was appropriate and accepted behavior to everybody. I got no responses and everyone just looked like they were cringing to death. But it's weird how I didn't feel the embarrassment or see the third perspective on the whole situation until years later. Maybe I'm not describing it in a way that makes it sound too horrible. But thinking back on it gets me absolutely mortified, and whatever I'm doing, whether I'm at work or home, I stop whenever I remember this and just stare blankly into the distance, dead in my track for a while, like I'm paralyzed with regret.